What up, what up? Welcome back. So we did hit our 50 sub goal last week. So keep your eye out for the subscriber giveaway video that's going to be coming out later on this week. And in the meantime, why don't you go ahead and
Subscribe.
We can keep getting on with the getting on and keep the ball rolling. So let's go ahead and get into these commanders. Starting us off, we have Madness playing Muldrotha. It's going to be graveyard recursion, doing graveyard stuff. Then we have Hearts playing Syr Gwyn. It's going to be a Knight tribal deck. Then myself, I'm playing Abdel Adrian. Going to be doing Flicker combo mechanics. And lastly, we have Vince down here playing Azami, looking to do tribal wizard stuff and win with combos. So we are playing a level 9 power deck. So be prepared for a lot of interaction and some stack play. And without further ado, let's take it to the table.
Madness plays Command Tower, passes a turn. Hearts plays Savai Triome, tapped and then pass. I play an island and then cast Mystic Remora. Vince plays Polluted Delta, tapping it, sacking it to get an island. Madness plays an island and then casts Spore Frog. Hearts plays Godless Shrine, tapped, and casts Faithless Looting, allowing me to draw with my fish. I pay the cumulative upkeep for the fish. That's a hard word. And then play an island and pass the turn. Vince plays Cavern of Souls, naming Wizard, and casts Leisure Shredder. Madness casts Courier's Capsule, allowing me to draw thanks to the fish. You got to feed the fish. Just gotta. And then plays Lotus Field, sacrificing his island and command tower. It's a good thing that land has hexproof, because I started salivating. You'll see why in a minute. Hearts plays Cavern of Souls, naming Knights, then casts Herald's Horn, choosing Knights as well, which will trigger the fish, so I draw. You got to feed the fish! At his end step, I'll cast Mystical Tutor to go and fetch Ephemerate. Now, I hate to use my tutor so early in the game, but I have Graveyard Recursion, and I just gots to get my Flicker shenanigans going. I let the fish die this turn. You've served me well. Then I play a Plains, and I exile Divine Visitation to evoke Solitude, targeting Ledger Shredder. Then I cast the Ephemerate I just tutored for, targeting Solitude, this time exiling Spore Frog. Madness chooses to sacrifice the Spore Frog in response to my targeting of it. Then I cast Spreading Seas, targeting Hearts' Cavern of Souls, making it an island, and I draw and pass the turn. Man, I wish I could hit that Lotus Field with my Spreading Seas. I know. I'm touching lands, that's taboo, but we are playing in a 9 power level game, so it's okay. Vince plays an island and then casts Ristic Study. Vince said, I see your fish, and me and Azami will raise you. One whole library. Now we gotta figure out what we can do to stop that blue player from drawing a lot of cards. Madness casts Crucible of Worlds and then plays Command Tower from his graveyard. Then he'll pass. Hearts does his Herald's Horn trigger and then casts Hakan, Stormgod Scourge, from his graveyard, paying for Ristic Study, and then plays and cracks Marsh Flats to search for a Blood Crypt. Hakan is a great piece of tech. It's like having a Muldrotha, but for night creatures. But anyway, I'll begin my turn with Ephemerate's Rebound trigger, then I'll pay for Ristic Study for the Ephemerate, choosing Hakan, Stormgod Scourge with Solitude's ETB. Then I play Prairie Stream as my land. The table is getting real tired of me exiling their creatures. Then I'll cast Skyclave Apparition, targeting Ristic Study. From there, I'll pass the turn. And there I go, exiling stuff again. It kinda makes sense now why the table is seeing me as enemy number 1. Vince plays Manamo, School of Water's Edge as his land and then cast Arcane Signet. From there, he'll cast Felwar Stone and pass. This is where Vince tells me that he's been sandbagging those mana rocks since I had my fish out. He ain't feed the fish. Madness plays a forest. You got to feed the fish! And then casts Caustic Caterpillar, giving him the ability to destroy an artifact or enchantment. And then he passes the turn over to Hearts. Hearts is going to start by playing a swamp as his land for turn. Then he casts Etchings of the Chosen, naming Knights. From there, he'll cast Expedition Map and pass his turn. This is where the tables turn. I stop being the answerer, and I start being the answered. I cast Azorius Signet. Then I attempt to cast Spellseeker, which Vince responds to by casting Delay. Got him! Spellseeker gets exiled with 3 suspend counters on it. I move to combat and send 5 damage at Vince, which he takes, and then I pass the turn. Spellseeker would have been trouble for the whole table, so good on Vince for answering that one. Vince plays an island, then he'll cast his commander, Azami, Lady of Scrolls, and passes from there. Madness starts by playing an island from his graveyard thanks to Crucible of Worlds. Then he pays 2 to sacrifice Courier's Capsule, drawing 2 cards. If Madness can get his commander down, having all these cheap, recurable cards in the graveyard could spell trouble. Vince responds to that trigger by tapping Azami to draw a card. And then Madness will cast his own Mystic Remora and then pass the turn. Hearts plays Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth as his land. We've seen 2 fish, a Rhystic Study, and a Ledger Shredder. Blue looks good. Then he'll cast Sorin, Vengeful Bloodlord. He'll -2 Sorin to return Wintermoor Commander from his graveyard to the battlefield, and then he passed the turn. I'll play Deserted Beach as my land. And then I'll cast Peregrine Drake, untapping 5 lands. Now I caught myself wondering how this didn't get countered with all the blue sitting at this table. And from there I'll cast Abdel Adrian, my commander. Oh, here we go. And the answers come out. Victor responds by casting Resculpt, targeting my Solitude. Hearts will respond to that by casting Dire Tactics, targeting my Peregrine Drake. I respond to that by casting Cloud Shift to flicker my Peregrine Drake. Got him! My Drake will flicker, I'll untap my lands, the Dire Tactics will fizzle, my Solitude will get exiled, my commander will ETB, it will exile my Drake, my Skyclave Apparition, Spreading Seas, and Azorius Signet. When that's said and done, Madness will have drawn 5 cards, and I would have taken a knee, drank a gallon of water, and maybe caught my breath, because that was a lot. Vince will cast Treasure Cruise, exiling his graveyard to draw 3 cards. Really could use some of that card draw myself, seeing as how I'm hellbent now with no cards in hand. Then he'll play an island. From there, he'll cast Patron Wizard, and then he'll pass the turn. That Mystic Remora is looking kind of plump. That's 1 full fish. So it makes sense that Madness doesn't pay for the fish, letting it die this time after drawing a lot of cards. He plays a swamp, and then he casts Secrets of the Dead. Looks like Madness and I are on the same page. You can never have too much card draw. From there, he'll tap out to cast Defense of the Heart. Vince responds by tapping his Patron Wizard to counter it unless Madness pays 1, which he cannot, so Defense of the Heart will get countered. Got him! He'll pass the turn from there after moving to discard. Vince will respond to Heart's upkeep by tapping Azami and drawing a card. Hearts pays 2 and sacrifices Expedition Map to search for Command Tower to hand, which he'll play after pinging Vince for 1 with his Sorin's ability. From there, he'll cast Vanquisher's Banner, naming Knights, and pass the turn. Look at Hearts trying to get in on this draw train. He said, Mardu got it. Mardu wanna draw too? I will cast Candlekeep Sage. And with not much else going on in my hand, I gotta either start dealing damage to people or try to unalive my commander so I can draw some cards. Move to combat attacking Sorin with Abdel and Vince with my tokens, as well as the elemental. From there, I'll pass the turn. Now, I was hoping that Hearts would help me unalive my commander by blocking them so I can get access to the cards underneath them and hopefully draw some cards and start doing some more cool stuff. But Hearts made the right play, left my commander alive. Vince starts by casting Gitaxian Probe, looking at all the cards in Madness's hand and then drawing a card. Then he'll cast Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, into Paradigm Shift, which, because there are only 2 cards in his graveyard, would win him the game after doing Jace's +1. I respond by casting Dovin's Veto and countering Paradigm Shift. Got him! But seriously, that Jace has gots to go. Vince will uptick Jace, targeting himself to mill 2 and draw 1. Then he'll play Mystic Sanctuary, targeting Treasure Cruise, and after that terrifying turn of events, he will pass the turn, holding up 3 mana, having access to a free counterspell and that of his patron wizard, as well as having access to card draw and his commander. I think I need to build myself an Azami deck. That thing is nice. Madness plays Command Beacon from his graveyard. Then he casts Massacre Worm. Vince responds by tapping his wizards and drawing 2 cards. Then Massacre Worm ETBs, killing my tokens and all of Vince's creatures. I lose 8 and Vince loses 4, and then he'll pass the turn. Hearts starts by casting Demonic Tutor. Then he'll cast Sylvia, Bright Spear, drawing from Vanquisher's Banner and searching for her partner. On my upkeep, my Spellseeker will finally come back from suspension, and I'll tutor for Essence Flux, because with not much else going on, I really need to draw some cards, and flickering my commander is a great way to help me do that. Then I'll move to combat and send everything at Jace, because I told you, I said Jace has gots to go. During my main phase 2, I cast Essence Flux, targeting Abdel Adrian. I'll draw from Candlekeep Sage twice, draw from Spreading Seas, exile Madness's Crucible of Worlds, float 4 mana, untap all of my lands, and exile everything under Abdel Adrian again, and I make 4 1/1 soldiers. Then I'll cast Spirited Companion to draw a card. Then I'll evoke Muldrotha to draw 2 more cards. From there, I'll play an island. Then I'll cast Archaeomancer. Vince responds with a Pact of Negation. Hearts responds to that by casting Entomb to put Unburial Rites into his graveyard, and with all of that, I'll pass the turn. Vince starts his turn by paying for his Pact of Negation. Then he plays a Scalding Turn, sacrificing it to get an island. Then he casts Soul Ring. From there, he'll cast Treasure Cruise and pass the turn. Again, leaving up mana. So I think at this point I realized that we may have let the Blue Mage draw too many cards this game. Madness casts the Great Henge for 3 thanks to Massacre Worm's power, and Vince responds by Wizard cycling Step Through. He searches for Trinket Mage and put that to hand. Then Madness is going to sacrifice 2 lands to play Lotus Veil. That one does not have hexproof. I want it. Then he casts Demon of Wailing Agonies. From there, he'll move to combat and attack me with Massacre Worm and the Spirit, completely unprovoked. All I've been doing is exiling stuff all game. I'll block the worm with my commander, which will die and have me drawing from Candlekeep Sage and Spreading Seas, which I target Lotus Veil with, turning it into an island. Then I exile Vince's Fell Warstone and tutor for his Cyclonic Rift, which I could have cast if I floated 2 mana before Peregrine Drake untapped my lands. But you live and you learn. We all can't be good Magic players. Some of us have to be mediocre, and that's about right where I live, in the MTG community. And after all that is said and done, Madness will cast Dark Deal, making everyone discard their hand and draw their hand -1. We all discard and draw, and then he passes the turn. Hearts starts his turn by casting Black Market Connections, then he'll cast Kin's Veil, Cavalier, giving all of his knights double strike. Lastly, he'll cast Wayfarer's Bauble and pass the turn to me. Let's take a minute to look at this Kin's Veil. Is it striking a T-pose? It's striking a T-pose. I'll cast Displacer Kitten, and Vince responds by casting Brainstorm. I'll then cast Flicker of Fate, targeting Peregrine Drake, which will have Vince responding with Spell Pierce, and I will use Displacer Kitten's ability to flicker my Peregrine Drake and untapping 5 lands. Then I'll cast Time Warp, which Vince will respond to by casting Misdirection, choosing himself as the target for the extra turn. Got him! I'll target Peregrine Drake with Displacer Kitten's ability to untap 5 lands. Then I'll cast Felidar Guardian, again targeting Peregrine Drake to do the thing, which I am sure is a sub-optimal play, but right now I only see red after losing my extra turn spell. Great play by Vince. From there, I'll cast my commander, exiling everything but the kitty. And then I will reluctantly pass the turn. Vince starts one of 2 turns by flashing back Flash of Insight, looking at the top 12 cards of his library and putting 1 to hand. Then he plays the Jeweled Lotus he just searched for. From there, he'll cast his commander, Azami. Then he casts Nimble Obstructionist. From there, he'll use Azami's ability to draw 2 cards. Then he casts Mana Crypt and moves to start turn number 2. You gotta admire how fast and efficiently he's pulling off these turns. I have to say, it did soften the blow a little bit. A very little bit. He'll start this turn by casting Time Warp. Okay, now he's just rubbing salt in the wound. Then he'll draw another 2 cards. He plays another fetch land to get an island. So it's at this point that we're pretty sure Vince can win the game this turn. So we're just gonna sit back and let his deck do its thing. The additional commentary is gonna slow down at this point. So let's sit back and watch the man do his work. He'll cast Glen Elendra Archmage, tapping her to draw another card and start his 3rd turn. Now I said it would slow down, not stop. Let's take a minute and enjoy and appreciate this Glen Elendra's art. Oh my goodness. He'll then cast Mystical Tutor, to get long-term plans. Tapping a wizard to draw it. Then he plays Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, as his land for turn. Then he'll cast Martyr of Frost into long-term plans. To get Mind Over Matter. That, plus his commander, allows him to draw through his whole deck and win with Thassa's Oracle.